And welcome, coaches. We are talking about email marketing for nutrition coaches. And when you're relatively new, email marketing might not be the first priority, but it's 100% something that you want to have at the top of your list because email marketing actually is yours instead of YouTube or Instagram that can own somebody else. You actually own your list. And I'm super excited that Andy is here from the Fitness Hub. And oh my God, he is talking about not only why email marketing is so important, but especially if you're new or relatively new coach, how you can start it, because it's actually not that difficult. It seems like this huge thing, but in reality, it's often much more easy than you think. First of all, Andy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me, Robin. It's great to be here.
So let's start with the first question. And I'm curious, when you think about email marketing and maybe also about the crash, I think in October, where suddenly everything went black on the day I tried to go live with another coach and nothing happened and people were confused. Why is email marketing so important, even though social media is so strong now?
Yeah, I think it's kind of exactly as you said in that introduction, is that social media platforms are great for attracting that following and getting your messaging heard and getting your presence out there. But when it comes to actually speaking to that audience and the biggest thing is having control of that audience as well. You also don't have any control over what happens on those social media platforms. So when it comes to a crash, or what often happens, might seem unlikely, but can happen a lot, is account bans. So overnight, you can lose your social media following. And if you suddenly haven't got a way of communicating to your potential interested audience, whether that's prospects or previous clients or existing clients, then overnight you can very quickly lose your business. And it might seem quite an extreme sort of scenario, but algorithms change. Even just small things like getting your keeping up with the latest social media algorithm changes and making sure your content gets out there, that's something that, again, you don't have control over. And a piece of content that previously might have used to get seen by 20-30% of your audience can quickly change as well.
Yeah, and for everyone who has been following me for a while, you probably remember the case with Hilde, one of the sales coaches that I really like. She worked over a year to gain over 6,000 followers on Instagram. And then overnight, everything is gone. But it's not only all the followers are gone. If you have a new account, if you start from scratch, you can't send as many DMs anymore. You can't go live. You have a limited amount of likes that you have. So she's still very much struggling to recover from this. One of the big not secrets, but one of the big things for her was really that she could rely on her email list to actually get going again. And I'm curious, you've been working with coaches, Andy. What are some of the changes that you have seen from coaches adopting email and then also getting your help?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is starting that communication process and building that know, like, and trust factor from day one. So as soon as someone signs up to your email list, it's very common to sort of put email to the side and think, I'll get around to emailing people later. And when these sequences are done well, and especially that first email, which, when someone's opting in for something, they are showing intent with your business. So we want to make sure that we deliver that straight away. And I often kind of like to compare it with a bit of a dating analogy. So, if you exchange numbers with someone in a bar, you increase your chances of progressing that down the line with a good follow-up, a timely follow-up. Obviously, what you say is going to matter. And it's very, very similar in a way with your email marketing and your email list and that welcome email. Typically the sequences that we build out for people and our clients, we're looking to get a conversion of around 3 to 5% on that initial sequence, but obviously that's just an initial conversion rate. You've obviously got those readers that you are speaking to and nurturing further down the line. So some people might be ready from day one when they sign up with you, but some people might need 3 to 6, even 12 months. But the beauty of the email list is that you still have ability to speak to them directly.
Yeah, I see this with my email list all the time, that people who have been on there for a long time suddenly message me saying, oh, I got this email and it really resonated. How are things? How is your service? Can we work together? So the ability to actually be in their inbox, if you haven't experienced it yet, it's very, very powerful. I'm curious. You have a blueprint on your website for a welcome sequence. I'm actually curious, how did you come up with this blueprint? So where do these ideas come from?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as with any of these creative skills, copywriting, learning from the best is the way to go. So your David Ogilvy's and your Gary Hulberts of the world, these guys are at the top of their copywriting game. So studying a lot of those guys, various reading, various courses. I've also got a big passion for the health and fitness industry myself. So sort of combining that knowledge with what influences me, what inspires me to take action. And then we've obviously tested out a lot of these with our clients as well. And, small things just like split testing, different subject lines in the sequences, and split testing different call to actions. It's a combination of learning from the best, applying that to real life situations, and testing and finding that blueprint. I'd say there's never, whilst we have that blueprint, there's never a perfect sequence and structure to follow. Everything can always be tested and improved, as with everything in marketing, but it's always good to have that structure to follow, certainly.
Yeah, what I really like when we got in contact is you focus on the fitness industry, because you can hire some agency and they can do email marketing. But if you don't have somebody who's actually in the field and actually is working with a lot of coaches, then they don't really have an idea of what you're actually talking about. So this is what I really like, that you're focusing on coaches. One of the big worries that I see with a lot of my followers and clients is email marketing is so difficult. How can they lose this fear of email marketing being so complex and difficult and overwhelming?
Yeah, definitely a concern that a lot of people I speak to have. And I think the biggest thing is people don't often take the time to sit down and plan things first. So it's sort of similar with any piece of content creation you're doing. If you're, for example, looking to put together a live stream, or if you're looking to get your Instagram videos planned for the week, sitting down and planning them first and having a structure to follow is going to make your life a hell of a lot easier than it can be very overwhelming sitting down and going, okay, I need to email my list, but I've got no idea what I'm going to say. And then you end up just saying, hey, here's my coaching program this month. Here's a link to buy it, and don't see any return from it. And then lose a little bit of trust in your email. So yeah, having, especially with the welcome sequence, and that's what we're having in the blueprint, is sort of a structure to follow, how to build out that, not just your first email, but also the sequence to follow after it, sort of questions to ask yourself, and then going out and writing them and putting that together in a document and structuring it from there.
And let's imagine somebody says, okay, I got it. Okay, email marketing is important, but where do I start? Do you have some steps coaches can take, or some tools that you recommend that are beneficial or really good for somebody who has 0 email list leads, and is just starting out?
Yeah, 100%. Top 3 sort of platforms for me would be ActiveCampaign, ConvertKit, or MailerLite. There's dozens and dozens of platforms out there. One thing I would try and recommend to people is to stay away from Mailchimp. it's very good getting started and very easy because, well, firstly, it's free. But as you sort of get further into things, the service starts to get a bit more clunky and increases in price very quickly. So I think just invest in a little bit more early on. Like a lot of these email providers are very low cost getting started anyway, sort of a few dollars a month. But yeah, they all make things very straightforward getting set up. They will integrate very easily with your website in terms of your opt-in sequence. You can build like very simple landing pages in there. So if you just want to direct people from your Instagram to a simple sign up to my newsletter and receive a free guide. And yeah, they're all very helpful in terms of support and resources getting started with those.
Yeah, and I always think, especially when you're really new, you want to come across as professional as possible, and investing a little bit for a paid provider just to make sure people don't see like, oh, there's this sponsorship from Mailchimp at the bottom still. So
Yeah.
does he even have email, or does she even money to pay for this? Is, especially when you're new, very important, and it's such a low cost in the beginning. I'm curious, from your experience, and you have worked with many coaches, what are some of the mistakes that people make when they don't have guidance from someone like you?
Yeah, I'd say top three that we see is, first one, not speaking to someone like they're a real human and a real reader at the end of that email. So it's very easy to like get hold of someone's email address and just speak to them and market to them in a bit of a generic, almost robotic way. And that's obviously the great thing with email is you can be very personable. You can speak to someone like you're almost your friend, and that's something that we definitely want to take advantage of. And sort of combined with that is overcomplicating language. So we humans like to use very simple language, especially if you think about the format that a lot of people read emails on, in terms of, most of the time now, 60-70% is going to be on a mobile. So we want to make sure that language is simple to understand and formatted in a way that is very readable. So that means using short sentences, but a lot of it is about breaking up your language in paragraphs and making it very readable. So yeah, they're the two sort of biggest things that we'd see.
And I'm super excited because you're going to show us some examples of that. But before we show that, I'm just curious, can you summarize a little bit, what are the key elements that the first email needs to have to actually be memorable and get people to reach you until the end and maybe click on something?
Yeah, so first email, as you said, it's going to set the tone going forward. So it's not necessarily a make or break email, but it's going to be one of your highest opened emails. So you really want to set that tone going forward. So always first thing is don't hang around and deliver exactly what they have come for. So if they've opted in for a free guide or a consultation session, whatever that might be, make sure you deliver that straight away and remind them just to highlight the benefits, what they're going to get from that, and just to encourage them to actually take action on what you've offered them. Then we like to do sort of a quick introduction, talk about yourself a little bit, but we don't want to talk too much about yourself, just let them know, who you are and what you've come for. And then setting expectations is a big one as well. So, this is what's to come, what you can expect from me. And then we also want to try and create an open loop. So without getting sort of too into detail, open loops are essentially what's going to encourage you to binge watch your next TV show. So if you give them a reason to look forward to the next email, essentially. So it could be something as simple as just asking a basic question, a common, a misconception maybe that's in the nutrition industry. And then saying, yeah, we're going to talk a lot more in detail about this in tomorrow's email. Something as simple as that can work very well to create that open loop.
Ooh, it's almost like a cliffhanger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's it's our brains are sort of wired to want to close these loops, which is why, as I said, in the sort of Hollywood world, in the the TV series world, why these open loops are used so frequently, and why you sit down to watch one Netflix episode and 5 hours later you complete the whole season.
Yeah, I love it. I think you have one of the examples ready.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
now we can show the new features that I have here. So we do this, and voila.
Okay, you can see that's
Can you,
okay?
yeah, can you zoom a little bit more in?
Yeah,
I think that's
absolutely.
easier to read.
How's that?
That's good. Maybe a little more if possible.
Try.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, good.
Even with my old eyes, I can read this.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so this is one client we actually worked with in the past, and this was their first welcome email. And yeah, kind of ticks those boxes I said earlier about readability. So obviously I've just copied the email into a document, but you can see what this would be like if you added it into or trying to read this on your phone. Sort of one big chunk paragraph of text. It's very hard to, people want to scan through copywriting a lot of the time. So we want to try and break it up and highlight the key points. And when you're reading this, you might read the first sentence, but you're not really sure what you're getting out of it. You might skim through and pick out certain words, and then you skim down to the bottom, and I think they had an image in here as well. But there was no real call to action. There wasn't anything. They were, trying to build that relationship with the client to start with, but not really doing it in a way that's sort of very easily laid out and easily readable. So we kind of took that, and this isn't uncommon at all. This is I sort of sign up to people's lists on occasion and see this kind of format of email very, very often, and it's a kind of delivers to an extent what they want, but not in a very user-friendly way, I guess is the way to describe it.
Yeah. Just a second, for everyone who has been a precision nutrition coach, you know how important client-centered is, and you could look at this as email list reader-centered. So yeah. I love the idea of being reader-centered.
Yeah, 100%. So this is what we kind of revised the welcome email to when we wrote it for this client. And your first expectation, first looking at it, it might seem pretty long, but we, scanning through this, that's the biggest thing is it is scannable, and it sort of is readable and goes through those elements that we talked about earlier. So the first thing we've done was we've just a very quick welcome sentence, and then we've just got straight to the point and saying, here's the lead magnet you've requested, and a download button. And, this is a reminder of sort of the benefits that you're going to get from it, and trying to encourage them to actually take action on that piece of value that they have requested from you. And just a bit more of a story element to it. So this is why it's going to help you. This is sort of where it's come from, how we've developed it, and then down here is where we get into sort of setting those expectations. So you can see we're using a lot shorter sentences. We're using just some simple. I've got a mind blank, but the 3 dots, what they're called. Just to keep that flow of copywriting and sentence structure going. And then we get into sort of future pacing and setting expectations. So it's encouraging people to follow on social media channels where they might not be already, which I know might seem counterintuitive based on we're saying bring people from social media onto your email list, and then we're sending back to the social media. But obviously, your content's across different platforms, and you want to have as many eyeballs and on those various platforms as possible. So that was the first bit of future pacing. And then we've said here, the second part is, help me help you over the next few days. So this is where we're sort of opening that loop. You're going to be receiving a few more gifts. We're going to talk about some stories about, me and my physical and mental health journey. And that's about trying to create that relationship with that reader straight away. So they might be thinking, oh, actually, I've experienced some, everyone's got their own sort of stories. And if you are opening up and being honest and transparent with your reader in that way, you can create that bond and that relationship, from this first email, essentially. And just, as I said, creating that open loop and future pacing. And then as well, this is a something that's quite good to ask your readers. It's influenced a lot by your deliverability of your emails.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do is just avoid the spam box, essentially. So if for any reason your first email lands in the spam, we want to make sure that people are marking your email as safe, and then that just encourages your email service provider to deliver that email into the primary folder as much as possible going forward. So just that little sentence in there that just says, if you could please take a second, just so you don't miss out on like all that future great value that I'm going to deliver you. It helps out your reader, and it obviously helps you out as well. And then the final thing we do is always include a PS with a really soft call to action. So this is something that people miss out massively as well. And as I said earlier, your welcome email is going to be one of your most opened emails, if not the most opened email. People have signed up to receive something, so they want to go and get that. So we just want to, almost capitalize on that opportunity of how many eyeballs you're going to have on your email, and give people there will be a certain percentage of people who are ready to learn more and maybe even get on the phone and chat with you. So we just want to have that option in there. Basically, we're not doing it in a pushy sort of going in the first email and saying sell, 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 but the option is there, and you will see a certain number of clicks and sign-ups to whatever your nutrition coaching service is from that as well. So
Yeah, I love this. And I think we could talk for another hour or two just about how to design your email so it doesn't end up in the promotion folder. So at least for me, every time I land in the promotion folder, at least 10 or 20% open rate drops because nobody reads the promotion filter. But that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, I'd say one real quick tip on that is a lot of the email service providers, they do have like a built-in AI, checker of your email. So obviously in the fitness space, a big one is if you're talking very heavily about fat loss, and that's the same on social media, it can sort of pick that up and flag it. And, simple things like swear words, you've got to be careful with. So yeah, a lot of the email providers will, before you send your email, will give you like a little indication and say, there might be some things you need to check in here or not. But yeah, as you said, we can talk for hours about that topic. So.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So we have the first email, and we talked about in the beginning about a sequence, but if you have no experience with emails, then a sequence might be something really new. Can you talk us through how would a email sequence actually work? Because people on the email list is nice. It's a nice stroke for the ego, but we want monetization. We want people in our program. So how can we actually turn the subscriber into a client?
Yeah, so as you said, that is about building out a sequence, and we talked about earlier creating those open loops. So making sure that sequence is, followed through by your reader and give them a reason to want to receive that, want to open and read that next email. So we don't really want to go with very hard and pushy sell emails all the time. But as we get later on throughout the sequence, we add a bit more reasoning and justification and overcoming objections as to why they should start booking a call with you. So biggest thing I always focus on with the sequence and emails in general really is building that know, like, and trust factor. So someone wants to hear about you and your story and how you got to where you are now. They also want to see some like social proof and some authority, like proof that you can actually deliver the results that you're talking about with transformations. And yeah, we want to speak to them in a way that we are demonstrating that we understand the challenges that they're facing. And that's going to really help, in each email, we always want to have a call to action. So the first 2 or 3, or after your welcome email, you might have 2 or 3 emails that are the call to actions are providing a bit additional value. So you might have another, video that you want them to watch, et cetera, but all that is leading to is further down in your sequence. This is how you can book a call with me. This is how I'm going to help you overcome XYZ goals. And this is why you want to take action now. If there's any way you can include a bit of urgency and scarcity into that sequence, that is works great as well.
Yeah, and I often think about these sequences almost like scripted conversations. that you have with a potential new client. So you talk a little bit about what you're actually doing. Then you imagine what maybe some of their questions are. So you answer them in an email. Then they may have some reservations. So you talk about this as well. And then you go back to, hey, I'm actually doing this. Are you interested? This is how I often like to think about these sequences.
Yeah. And also thinking about, where's your client, or where's your prospects now when they join your list? What current position are they in? Point A, and where do they ultimately want to get to? Point B, and sort of fill in the gaps almost along that journey and providing the additional value to help them along that journey. And at some point, the additional value that you're going to provide is actually speaking to them on a call and working with them as a client. So yeah, and it's about making it very organic. Like you said, starting a conversation can be a really good way of doing it. So we use sometimes in our sequences just some really short emails that almost look like they're sent from a friend, and it's just, hey, how you doing? Just checking in and see if there's anything I can help you with on your journey to achieving X, Y, Z. And the emails are sort of 20, 30 words long. Just starting a conversation in that way, and then is another good way of having almost a different style of call to action, because people don't necessarily feel, I don't really want to jump on a call yet, but maybe starting a conversation is a good way to lead them to that call.
Yeah, and I remember very, very early on when I started, that was super interesting. I didn't open the last email, and of course, now I know it was automated. It came just like you described it. Hey, I didn't notice you didn't open the last email. If you have any questions, let's just have a quick call. Back then, I thought, he was actually monitoring my emails.
Yeah, 100%.
And want to actually help.
Yeah.
So that was super, super cool.
That's something like. Sorry. I'd say
Go ahead.
Obviously it's a slightly more advanced, topic to get into, but you can do those sort of things where you can resend your first email to everyone that doesn't open it, and you can follow up on certain emails based on actions that people take. So it's getting a bit more advanced and a bit more technical, but there are a lot of automations and ways that you can really capitalize on the actions that people are taking on their emails as well.
Yeah, and one of the things that are cool about automations is you don't have to do as much work. And if you're watching right now or watching the replay, maybe you're thinking, email list, that's really a good idea, but I don't have the time and the energy to just sit down and actually start thinking about what should I write. And I'm definitely not typing up the email that you showed. Is there some resource then that you can recommend for people to get started with an email or email sequence?
Yeah, I mean, without pitching my own services too much, I've got a free guide on our website, which is basically our welcome, the blueprint that we talked about earlier. So it's just going to talk you through exactly how to go about planning and writing your email sequence. And we include some examples in that, so you can, get a good idea on a starting point, I guess, to work with. I am less of an advocate of just using templates and just fill in the blank templates. I know people sometimes love them, but it also takes away a lot of creativity. So what you'll get in this blueprint is a structure on how to plan and exactly the right questions that you can ask yourself to sort of tease out those stories, and then a process to go through to actually turn those questions that you've asked yourself into an email sequence that is that you can set up from your reader. So that's what that blueprint is. On the homepage of my website, which Robin's just posted in the comments, you'll easily find that, which is just fitnessmarketinghub.com.
So it's in the comments, and it will also be in the description. But you also have a very special offer for everyone who's watching this video. Can you tell us about that? I'm super excited that you're actually doing this for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, I'm going to offer anyone who's watching this video, have a stab at writing your first welcome email. Whether you download that guide or maybe you've got an email already, a welcome email already that you just want to have some eyeballs on, send that over to me. Just drop me an email. You'll find my email on my website or my social media as well, or Robin might post it below. And I'll just give you some feedback on that welcome email. I'll give you some pointers of how you can improve it, maybe some things that you can tweak and change. Just let me know in your email, hey, I watched the replay or the live stream with Robin. I'll be more than happy to review and give you some feedback on that sequence, on that working email.
Awesome. Andy, thank you so much for being with us, for sharing all this, especially sharing the good and the bad examples, so we actually get to see how a pro writes their emails. For everyone who's still watching, thank you so much for taking the time. And don't forget to shoot Andy a DM with your email, so you get to level up your welcome email. So it gets more opens, more clicks, and more people are interested in your coaching. So thank you so much, Andy.
No worries. Thanks very much, Robin.